Well, we promised some other peers of Joseph Hudson, and perhaps there is none more revered who could tell you everything about the question mark and why he never got a championship match. But let's welcome to the show the champ, Mr. Nick Aldis. Welcome to the show, champ.
Thank you, guys. Wow, Gary. I mean, we're really going to start there.
No, that was a joke. I
mean, between you and I remember going all the way back to season 1. I remember you and Rotella. I mean, we're just constantly pushing that agenda, and then you know, it was just I could never walk away from it. I could never get away from your constant beratement about ducking the question mark, or indeed Jocephus for that matter.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think Rob's head would explode if that match had ever happened.
It's funny. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I watched you guys the whole show, and you know, first off, I really, you know, you guys have really succinctly, you know, described Joseph and his contributions, and you know, you've really done a fabulous job of articulating, you know, what he's done and what he meant to a lot of us and to the fans. So there's not a lot I can add to, I guess, you know, in terms of superlatives. But the when we were talking, I forget what you guys were talking about, but it triggered something in my head where I remember having a conversation with him about like, because I, you know, it had become, you know, the question mark character, like just completely exceeded everyone's expectations, right? And just totally kind of excelled the original plans for it, which was, I guess, just to sort of be, you know, so like, it was really just some light relief and kind of a bit of fun, and to see, you know, see if something like that would fly. And it was kind of like a lot of stuff that the NWA has done. We were willing to sort of give stuff a chance without overproducing it or sort of overcooking it, right? And then it was just like, I shared this a couple of days ago. There was some footage of question mark going out to wrestle Starks and just getting this like gigantic pop. And I told the story on the tweet. I remember, like, because, you know, like I've alluded to before, like, Starks was one of the guys that I had sort of gone to bat for and been like, you know, there's something in this guy. So like, a lot of the time when he was working, I would make sure I was sort of close by to sort of watch what was going on, to hear, you know, to hear the feedback and stuff. And then obviously with Joseph being so close with Billy, you know, Billy took a keen interest. It meant a lot to Billy that Joseph was having some success, you know, with wrestling, because he knew how much it meant to him. And so we were both kind of standing there, like, watching this, and he walks out and just gets this, you know, Road Warrior pop. And I remember just standing there with just like this not baffled, but this like amazed sort of smile of like bewilderment on my face, and turning to Billy, and Billy just had this exact same look on his face, and we just look at each other like, this is crazy, right? I go, this is fucking unbelievable, you know, like, but we were so like, it was just, we were so kind of pleasantly surprised, you know, which is such a great thing about the wrestling business, when you let something happen organically, you know, and you're not sort of over planning it. And it was like, man, how great is this? You know, that, because look, it's no secret that Joseph and Billy were really close, you know, much closer on a personal level than Billy and I, you know. And so it's like, it's tough when you're in that position, because Billy, you know, doesn't want to be seen as sort of playing favorites or you know, going to bat for one of his friends, you know, and sort of showing favoritism. But at the same time, he's the one who knew, like, how much talent and how much there was to offer there. you know, and that he hadn't had a vehicle yet to showcase it. So it's like when that pays off and the response is so great. I mean, that was, I can say, you know, that was gratifying to Billy on a number of levels, you know, like obviously on a business level, but on a personal level too. And that's okay. Like, that's totally okay. And you know, for me, we've all got, you know, our guys like that in the business, you know, like Tom is one of those guys for me, you know. It's like, I'm constantly like reminding him and other people, like, you have no idea how good this guy is, man. Like, he's, you know, you let this guy off the leash and he's going to tear up everything. And it's like, and so I have a little bit of that too, where it's like, you know, when you see him just go out and crush it and, you know, just sort of totally live up to his potential, you go, there, thank God, you know, and it's gratifying. But I will say that with Joseph, you know, I want everybody to know that, you know, you guys were talking about his, you know, him being somewhat of a Renaissance man, right? And having that ability to, you know, he's well read, you know, well educated, you know, had a lot of different interests, and that carried over into his contributions to wrestling. But you know, when you guys were talking earlier about Jocephus, the Jocephus character, you were kind of celebrating the fact that he was able to create so much depth in a character, right? And tell all these stories and really give some layers to a character. Like, that's hard to do. It's hard to do without it being hokey. You know, it's really hard to get, you know, a character like that right, for it to not come across as too forced and too over prepared, but at the same time to have those layers that make it really interesting and different. And that's the sort of thing that's really hard to do, you know, at any time. And Joseph did it twice, like with two totally different characters. And I have to say, with very little warning, you know, not a lot of notice on the question mark concept. It was kind of like, hey, you know, what about this? And like, I wish I knew more about those conversations about the early days, because I don't, you know. But it's like, I know that it was pretty sort of spur of the moment, you know, as far, and yet there you go, like Monrovia, you guys, like the Mongrovian flag, it was like he just had that kind of enthusiasm and that mind, that it was like he loved bouncing stuff off everyone and sort of, you know, throwing stuff out there to see how people reacted to it and stuff like that. He had a fabulous mind. He really did. And I have to, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit that it took me a minute in the early days to really see it, to understand. Because look, in our business, it's tough because, you know, especially with someone like me, once you've been around a bit, it's kind of like you have somewhat of a cynicism about you. So you kind of go, well, if I haven't run into this guy, then, you know, how good is he, kind of thing. And I dare say that I probably had a little bit of that early on, but I was, you know, open mind. I always, like, you know, I think everyone can see that with, you know, with all of us with the NWA, we all sort of approached it with an open mind, and we all sort of said, hey, let's commit to it and do our best with it. And yeah, like pretty soon I started going, okay, like, yeah, I see it, I get it, you know, yeah, and that's just me celebrating him on a professional level, I guess. You know, that doesn't even scratch the surface of Joseph Hudson on a personal level.
I'm curious because, you know, when you look at the early days of like Lightning One, you got the key players. The big players were you and Tim Storm and Jocephus, and Crimson was a big player in those days. Would there have been, you know, and I don't know how Question Mark would have played out in this, but do you envision that at some point down the road there would have been a, I mean, would Jocephus have won the title at some point?
I don't know. I mean, because the question mark was like I said, it was. I don't know if there was. I don't know if they had mapped out a sort of timeline for the question mark, or whether it was just going to be, let's try it for a season just to do something different or whatever. I really don't know. But everyone knows that it just took on a life of its own, and then it was sort of like, I know he dabbled a little bit back with the Jocephus character, but I mean, look, anything's possible. And I know that, like, again, somewhat tongue in cheek, back in the Rotella days. I mean, Rotella freaking loved this guy, and he was, Rotella would always he was always lobbying for a question mark title shot, and obviously that was a somewhat sort of polarizing opinion. But, I remember having a conversation with Joseph about it and sort of going, it's not yet, because it's like the time isn't right. But I was like, somewhere down the line, like there just might be this, you know what I mean? There just might be the right moment for it. Like, that's the sort of thing that you've really got to time just right. And all the circumstances have to be right. And, but I was starting to sort of come around on the idea that, maybe there is like something, maybe there is like a little sliver of a hint there we could do something, so, and that's just a testament to how well received that character was. Because at the end of the day, look, I'm business, so it was kind of like, well, if like I said, if you can make it work, if you can get all those pieces on the board right where you need them. I mean, I was just thinking of the pop, you know what I mean? I was thinking of the sort of what if kind of, scenario. So it was like, it was definitely there. And, the thing with this business is most of the good ideas start there, and it's kind of like, they usually start as a sort of little flicker in the back of your mind where you sort of go, okay. And you sort of trust your instinct, where like, if that flame doesn't go out, then we'll have to like look at this properly. And that's kind of where it was. It was like a flicker, a flame, you know what I mean? It was going on in the back of my mind.
I'm curious about him. Just one of the things that interests me is, Rob touched on you guys being at the very beginning. There's Tim Storm, there's Jocephus, and then Nick Aldis comes in the middle of this Tim Storm Jocephus feud. Aldis gets placed in there, and you guys end up you have a triple threat with like Crimson and you and Jocephus and all of this stuff. But anyway, the point I'm getting to is that as things start to pick up steam, and we're seeing the news now, and I'm not going to touch on this too much, but as the NWA is likely to reappear very soon, it's tough seeing these folks that have been there the whole time, that and then here's it's almost, I don't mean to make it a weird saying, but like a fallen soldier, like in this battle to make the NWA a big deal. Anyway, I just it's got to be hard as
I mean, look, and I want to make the point here that obviously in all of this, the loss of Joseph Hudson as a contributor to the NWA is lowest on the list of priorities when you're talking about how sad this is and what a tragedy this is. But, I understand that, we're speaking to his fans, and we're speaking to our fans at the NWA. So it's obviously it's relevant, on this, but I just, I know that you guys all know that, but it's like, so it's not like I've been sitting there going, oh God, this is terrible for business, this is terrible for the company. Right. Like, it's like, that's not even really entered my,
I don't think anybody in this room would think that.
I know. And I'm just, but it's like, it's funny because it's kind of, it's sad now because it's like it's just hitting me, and during this conversation, do you know what I mean? Like that's the first time where I've really thought, yeah, God, it's really, you know, and I know I wrote about it in my tribute to him I wrote on Instagram, that, you know, just because I want, but it was more about, I wanted people to really understand how much he contributed to the brand. I'm wearing my, I'll tilt the camera now. I'm wearing my Uncle Tony Fork's Waffles and Tire Irons shirt in honor of Joseph, because he produced that commercial. You know, those retro commercials that were such a sort of cool and unique element of the show early on, and such as almost like a cult hit by themselves. Like the Tony Fork one was, I mean, I had people, I remember some of my friends in England who were sort of casual fans at best, but they had checked it out because I was on it or whatever, and then they've gone, oh my God, the Tony Fork like Waffles and Tire Irons commercial is the best thing I've ever seen, you know. And like Joseph, you know, that's like when I really think about my sort of experiences with him, my personal ones with him probably somewhat replicate yours, Rob, you know, in the sense of like we talked about, you know, our kids. And like I said in my post, you know, the last time I saw Joseph, he was in my kitchen. He'd come over to because, you know, we're both in Tennessee, and he'd come over to, I can't remember whether it was to borrow a piece of equipment or to drop off a piece of equipment. He'd bought one or the other, but like we were just hanging out in the kitchen, just like chopping it up and catch up. And at least half of that conversation was him telling me about all these plans he had for his son's room. Like, I'm going to get this, and I was going to go and see if I can find some retro something or other and like refurbish this. And like, and I just was like, man, you make me feel lazy, you know, because it's like he's going to all this effort just to, you know, and you know, his face just lit up with the, you know, when describing sort of the stuff he wanted to do for Soren, you know. And yeah, that's yeah, that's Joseph Hudson. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, aside from that, you know, the real most of the stuff I think about with him is, it puts a big smile on my face, because he's, you know, he was funny as hell. Like one of our little, I'll share this, I don't think I've ever talked about this, but one of our little sort of, you know, with certain people in your life, you kind of have little jokes like that you know, that you just have with one person, right? Like you just have one, like a certain thing that you just kind of do with one person. But like, and this was, I mean, this was done with absolute love and respect. But one of our sort of ongoing jokes that we had with each other was we were always making old jokes about Tim. Like that was like one of our little things. Like we would just randomly, like he'd just randomly text up every now and then and be like, you know, it might be like it usually involve a picture of something really old, and then saying, hey, look, it's Tim's first book, you know, or like, you know, Tim's first car. Like I know that for a while we had like a group chat going on with like with basically anyone involved in the company. And I'm pretty sure like Joseph started throwing those in there too. Just like it was just this like, I think because like in those early days, like you said, Gary, with the 10 pounds of gold and everything, it's like that you had those three personalities that were sort of the focal point of the show. And they were all completely different, but they were all basically extensions of our real personalities, which is why they were, like you guys said, you know, that character, you know, I don't know whether it was one of you guys or someone in the chat, but I saw someone make a good point where they said, you know, a character like the Jocephus character, if it's done wrong, you know, can really be an eye roller. Like you can really see it and you go, oh God, this is, you know, if it's because the person doing it has to be able to convey it, you know, with their eyes and you have to believe it, you have to feel it. And the reason he was able to do it was because it is, you know, it is somewhat of an extension of the real guy. Like he you know, he was kind of lovably weird. Like Trevor Murdoch called me, you know, I mean, we had all kinds of phone calls, which again, a testament to how well liked he was. But Trevor was one of them, and you know, he was saying that, like, you know, God, he was so funny, man. He was such a weirdo in the right way, you know, like, you know, because he just was sort of funny, weird, you know, like, or he would just, you'd walk in, and you never knew what he'd be doing next. He might be like playing piano or like reading some giant book or sort of, you know, dressed in something, you know, crazy, and you know, and then immediately he'd have like a whole thing to tell you about it and whatever. He was eccentric, and like, God, we need more eccentric people in pro wrestling, man. Like that's what the business is all about. And like I think we bonded, you know, obviously because he was already very tight with Billy, and obviously I've become tight with Billy based on, you know, us working together on this and really being committed to it. But I think we sort of bonded in this other weird way because we were the unique thing about that period was that we were both enemies of Tim. You know, like it was like, and his sort of rivalry with Tim was the thing that allowed me to then go off and do the Aldis Crusade, because it was kind of like you can't just go, okay, well, I'm going to go and defend the title now against a bunch of people, like forget Tim Storm. Like you had to sort of, you know, Tim had become like a huge deal, like with the audience, and they were, you know, so it was like, it was perfect because now we had two great things to cover, like this one rivalry between Jocephus and Tim, and then me going and defending the title, you know. And I think that's probably the bit that historically, you know, I guess doesn't get acknowledged enough, is that I think the thing that captured people's imagination with the NWA in the early days was the combination of the two. Like it was me doing the crusade and going to all these different places and defending the title and kind of documenting it in a sort of way that had never really been done before. But then you had this other thing, which was, because that's pretty dry. Like it's exciting and it's interesting and it's different and it's sort of got a unique flavor to it, but it can be kind of dry if that's the only thing you're doing, because it's a very sort of sports based kind of feel and a very sort of you know, serious, like it had to be. But so then you've got this other thing which is totally the other end of the spectrum, but still executed really well. And you know, I think like we all bonded, you know, those, you know, myself and Tim and Joseph, you know, I think we all shared a little bit of a stronger bond than a lot of the other NWA guys because of that, because we sort of knew, like we're the ones who turned chicken salad into, you know, chicken shit into chicken salad. Do you know what I mean? Like we're the ones who really kind of made something out of nothing, you know, or not something out of nothing, but we tried something really different, like, and made it work. And that kind of helped sort of create the foundation for what we were able to build on from there.
What's funny to me is just hearing you talk about him, and I don't want to keep you forever, champ. We're grateful for your time, but you know, you mentioned early on just like his relationship with Billy and Billy not wanting to play favorites, and yet we hear the like constant stories over and over again about like Joseph and what he helped create as far as the commercials, the foundations of the NWA as it is right now, these sorts of things. And yet he's probably, I guess, also aware of the line he walks with. He's best buddies with Billy Corgan. And, but you know, to tie this in, I mean, you're good enough to give us your time here. And I mean, we appreciate that, but there were a lot of people we talked to, and some folks just they weren't ready to talk about it, or they didn't feel like they wanted to be live or whatever. We got some videos and that sort of thing. But anyway, the big thing that I heard over and over and over again from everybody, they were like, just know that he was too good for this business. Like he was too friendly. He was too humble and nice.
That's true.
And it seems like this business requires you to have like some sort of ego, you know, like to make it, like you said, even coming in, that like, if I haven't run into this guy, that who is he, you know, that sort of thing. Anyway, I was just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, well, look, yeah, they're right. That's the sad truth is that you know, if he had been 5% more of a prick, like you know, he may have been able to, you know, not I'm saying able to, but like that might have been the thing that, yeah, but you might have seen more of him, you know, in other places. But it's like he had no interest in that. He had such good karma on his side. You know what I mean? And yeah, look, I don't want to over, you know, he was very close with Billy. But you know, like I said, I want to reiterate the fact that, you know, there were other guys who were tight with Billy also, who didn't, you know, who weren't who weren't featured on the show. So it's like it was, but it was more of a thing of it's a little bit like it's sort of like the thing you hear about a lot with second generation wrestlers. They have to sort of sometimes while on the surface, yeah, they might have got through the door a bit quicker, a bit more easily than others. Like they have to work twice as hard once they're in there to sort of to work past that stereotype of nepotism and, you know, sort of and almost pay their dues all over again. And that was definitely some of the things. Not that you'd ever know it with Joseph. Like that. Here's like I that's why I want to make a point to acknowledge some of the stuff he did. Like that he did the Retromania commercial that I did, you know, again, which was like something that people loved, and like that helped me. Like that helped me out, you know, much more than it helped him out. But he just loved creating. Like I remember when we shot that, we had a blast. Like he came to my house and he just put a big green screen up, and it was, I mean, I'll say it, I don't give a shit. Like it was late. I want to state for the record, Your Honor, he was not partaking, but I was partaking in a little bit of herbal medicine. You know what I mean? So the next time you see that Retromania commercial, just know that some of the creativity was you know, may have been inspired by some natural remedies. You know what I mean? But
that was not acting. Nick was just being himself, and Joseph filled in the rest.
Dude, that whole shoot was just done on the like, hey, what about this? You know, like, and he would, but 90% of the ideas were his, and then I would just sort of execute them like however, you know what I'm saying, like in my own way. And he would be like, what if you're like playing a game and like you can't do it, you know, or like what if you did this? And he goes like he was the guy who came up with the spinny. I'm laughing just thinking about it because we did. I wonder if God, I'd love if we could get hold of that footage. But there were so many bloopers from that shoot where we're just like just saying all kinds of crazy, outrageous shit that you can't use. And we would just crack each other up because he would like shout something out like, what about this? You know? Man, I had a blast doing stuff with him, man. He was just, but that's what I mean. He never once went out of his way to let anybody know, oh, I did that commercial, like I came up with that, like I shot it, and there's a lot of people in this business that would do that, you know, that would be quick to be like, that was me, I did that, you know. And, you know, meanwhile, like, here's me, like, constantly getting people going, oh my God, I love that Retromania commercial, or, you know, like, you know, I'm going like, oh, thanks, you know, and it's like, I'm going, well, you know, there was some talented people. I mean, I can't say, oh, it was the question mark, you know, because it's like, you know, you don't want to destroy the illusion, but it's like, that's who he is, man. And yeah, he probably was too nice for this business in a lot of ways, but, you know, he was taken way too soon, and I was debating on whether or not to touch on this, but and I don't, you know, I'm not getting into it too much, but like I just want to make it known just in case there's any. I know that this is a tough thing about our business, is that a lot of the time when people hear about you know, someone passing away, especially someone young, like, you know, like Joseph, they assume the worst. you know, that it was something nefarious or, you know, self-inflicted. And I just want to, I'm not going into any more than that because it's not fair and it's no one's business. But I just want to be clear that none of that's happened here. Like, you know, it was an untimely passing. It was just so sad. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Benita earlier, Rob. I saw Benita at the gym today. We train at the same gym, so like that was a sort of sad / happy coincidence, you know, I guess, to sort of, you know, but just you know, if anyone's wondering, like, she's doing good, she's all right, she's, you know, she's in shock, you know, but she's kind of like the rest of us, just still sort of processing that he's gone, and just like, damn, that sucks, it's horrible.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being one of the family members right now. We're doing this obviously close to it happening, and anyway, Rob, you had something to say. I'm sorry I jumped.
Oh no, I just you know, I just think about, you know, Benita and just the people that were close to him, and you know, again, we knew him as fans, you know, we knew him from afar, but just you know, it's weird how wrestling is for when you're on this side of the veil, like how hard. I didn't expect it to hit Piper so hard. You know what I mean? You know, I told her, and I debated about this because I was about to take her to school, and I was like, you know, guys, like, you know, how many of her schoolmates are going to know that she's an NWA fan? But I was like, they're going to know that I am, and somehow it's going to get to her, and I probably should tell her. So I'm like I've got this like moral dilemma on, do I ruin her? I almost kept her out of school because she was like, so, you know, it's like, have you, you know, I mean, I saw that picture of Donovan wearing the karate shirt, man, and it's like, yeah. When you're a dad, man, this is I don't even know. I'm just rambling here, but it's like,
no, I know.
You know, it's like it's tough. It's tough, man. You know?
Yeah, it's look, the closer you guys get to the industry, you know, the closer the more you'll understand that, like, probably you'll hear people say, oh, the worst thing about the business is the travel, or the worst thing about business is the pain, or, you know, whatever. And I don't know, I'm starting to think the worst thing about the business is going to way too many funerals for a guy my age, you know. But
yeah. Anyway, well, sorry, man.
No, sorry, I'm being a bummer, you know, but yeah.
No, I just we're not trying to, you know, bring the real world's champ on and just like depress you. I know that's not who you're talking to today. That's, you know, I just wanted to sort of share some thoughts about Joseph.
You know, we can celebrate. It's no secret here that this is a heavy loss. You know, I mean, we're all bummed out for people who are very close to him, and I had just been privileged to get to know him. You know, I mean, again, we're just fans. Jocephus never had to like talk to me. He didn't have to do that. I was content just to watch from afar, you know, but he went, you know, just like you, champ. You don't have to give us this time of day. You don't owe that to us, but the NWA is so different in what you guys do. And you're just, you know, you're a good guy too. And Jocephus is a good guy. He was a solid guy, and he just felt a responsibility. You know, he felt like I remember he didn't like to give interviews, and we all tried to get him. You know, Gary tried to get him, I tried to get him, and he Question Mark was kind enough to send us that little recording for Piper. But I've got, like I said, I want to save this whole text chain because, like, look, I don't like to talk to people, and I don't mind talking to you guys. But he felt like he hated the term mark. He's like, I hate the word mark. Because I said, you know, I'm just a mark, man. He's like, don't say that. It's like, I hate that word. I don't. So, you know, the fans are why we do this. We're not performing for ourselves. We're out here for you guys. And he was so conscientious, and that's just a rare thing. Because, you know, like, you know, we have Paul Lee as a common acquaintance, and I'm privileged to see behind the scenes at an independent show, and the personalities. These are guys that aren't anything. They walk in there like they're, some kind of big deal, you know, and the arrogance. And it's like, dude, don't at me with that, you know?
Well, his was also something interesting with the wrestling side of things too. And I never quite got a handle on it because he was going to do the movie podcast. I do the movie podcast, and we would have conversations about movies and stuff. And he's like, he was definitely talking about like, I'll come do your movie show. But like, I just, you know, like, I don't know what to talk about with the wrestling one. And
yeah, I think he struggled a little bit with a self-consciousness in wrestling, because I felt, you know, because he was perhaps was very conscious to not come across as kind of self-important and for lack of a better term, like a mark for himself. You know, he was always kind of like, oh, you know, I haven't done anything, and and it was like, no, but now you have, like, like this, you're like, you got over here. Like, this is a you know, this is a real deal. Like, this is a real thing. You know, you've got something over here and can like run with it. You know, embrace it. Like, and yeah, I don't know. I think there's a part of him that never fully sort of grasped that from, you know, as they never wanted to really sort of embrace that and go, oh yeah, like, I'm, you know, I think it felt to me sometimes he was always sort of waiting for it to be over, like, not wait, you know, but always sort of thinking, oh, this won't last very long. And we were still going like, dude, you've got this thing over. This is really like, when obviously, look, we know it's been a crummy year for the NWA, but like whenever, and it's, you know, obviously I'll pivot here and just thank everyone for the sort of, for sticking with us, you know, and keeping the faith. But like, whenever that gets brought up, he's one, like, the question mark was one of the names that was always up there, you know. And it's like, I can't wait to see you again at Thunder Rosa, or Tim, you know, the Camille, and the question mark. Like, it was always, he had become synonymous with NWA power, you know. And I hope he knew that. I really do, because he should have known that. And if he didn't, then that's a testament to, you know, like what we talked about, that you know, he's too nice for this business, because he should have known that he was synonymous with this brand.
Yeah, this is really cool of you, Champ, to show up and share your thoughts. I know it's meaning a lot to the people in the chat to see you talking about it, and it gives the people an outlet to kind of reflect on that. Yeah.
Well, look, I won't take up any more of your time, guys. I appreciate you, you know, doing this for Joseph, and hopefully it's directing everybody to the GoFundMe that Nancy, his sister, set up, which, by the way, smashed past the goal of 15K in like 2 hours, which is just unbelievable. So fair play to everyone, like, for everyone who's contributed to that. That's amazing. And I know that meant a lot to Billy when we talked about it. That really meant a lot to him. And I think it's because he knew it would mean a lot to Joseph. Like, he said, God, he would never have, again, like we talked about, based on his personality, you know, he would never have believed that it would have performed that well so quickly. And, you know, now it's like more than doubled the target or whatever, and it's just, you know, still climbing. So unbelievable. So good job on that, everybody, and thank you so much.
Yeah, no, we meant to bring, I was meaning to bring that up constantly during the stream. Now, it is scrolling by there. If you see it at the bottom in the ticker there, we created like a little link to it there, but definitely, last I looked, it's like over 30,000 now, and then the goal was 15. So
hey, great. One last thing before you go, Champ, I had to mention, I know you've been listening tonight.
Let me out of here, Rob.
I just had to point out
he's drained now.
I'm so, like, I've been listening to, we went up to Bristol last night, my brother and I, and the last couple weeks I've been listening to some of the things that we put out here in the last week, and I'm just like, in light of what's happened this week, I'm like, man, Jocephus comes up all the time in our conversation. And it just so happened that we did a house call episode on your 10 greatest championship defenses. And as it happens, we rated the triple threat match between you, Jocephus, and Crimson as one of your top 10 greatest title defenses of all time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The plaque's in the mail.
That's right. The plaque's coming.
What about, hold on, what about, I mean, forget the plaque, what about royalties? I mean, you're doing it, making all that YouTube money, you're doing entire shows about me, like title matches I've had now, Rob?
Interesting. That's a good point.
Gosh,
we've been
man,
playing clips today too, so we're going to be dealing with some of this eventually.
I would say, don't worry. Just in lieu of my royalties, make a donation to Joseph's GoFundMe. But I'm sure that you already have. I know you have.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been there already.
Really?
So
he's putting some of that Stinson money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that. Nobody's donating like Stinson donates. So. He Venmo'd that in from his yacht. So
he's probably the reason it went past that 15K in such a short time. Maybe he found it down the back of his couch. You know.
Right. No, that's 100% in. I'm glad even the champ knows. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate you. Grateful for you hanging out with us and all the fans that are here talking right now and enjoying hearing your side of things.
Yeah. No worries. All right. Peace out, guys.
See ya.